Hey, it's Dan, and welcome to Unified Gaming. So, you want a way to build subclassing into a PvP build, but how do you do it? What actually works? Well, in this one, I want to share with you a tried and tested method that I have used to make all of my PvP builds for the past 5 years as a PvP creator, and this works incredibly well with subclassing, giving us more power than ever before. It's an easy to use method, it's tried and tested, and I really hope you find it useful. I do want to stress, however, that this is not the only way to build a character, and that there are many ways to do that. So if you have an idea of how you might do it differently, let me know down below. And it is worth stressing that this is kind of aimed towards a damagey dealer, sort of jack of all trades, good in Cyrodiil, good in Battlegrounds, good in Icy. It will work for all cases. Is this your main healer? Is this your main tank? No, but it will touch upon those aspects too. As always, if you like what I do with my videos, likes and comments are greatly appreciated. And if you haven't done so, do subscribe. I've got builds, guides, much more on the way, and I'd hate for you to miss it. I also want to take this opportunity to say a massive thank you to all the YouTube and Patreon members who do support the channel. They get early access to the videos, exclusive builds and content, and much more. There's details down below. With that out of the way, we're going to jump into what this video is all about, how to build with subclassing. And it is worth stressing that I'm going to touch upon a video I made previously, which is on the channel already, where we took all of the skill lines in PvP and we ranked them from A, S, etc, looking at the best. So on screen, I'm going to show you a modified version of that, and you can see how we've utilized this to really give us a better understanding of the classes. So on screen, you'll see all of the skill lines, damage, defense, healing, and the ranking from S, A, B, C, and D. In the last video, I ranked every skill line based on its accessibility and ease of use into a build. So if you're looking at something that's S tier, this is very easy to add into the build and it will work straight away. So like Assassination, for example, you've got Concealed Weapon, you've got Merciless Resolve, you've got Incap, you've got Killer's Blade, Ambush, really good stuff. You can use this on most builds, it works very well. If you take something like Siphoning, for example, you have Malevolent Offering, you've got Leech and Strikes, and it's getting really awkward already, there's not many other good skills there. So you'll see quite quickly that the ones near the bottom, D, are really hard to use and build around, they're not that useful. There are obviously a few variations with this, and there's a full video that breaks this all down, so if you want to check out why I put where I put them, go see that video. As for this one here, what you'll notice is that they're put into damage, defense, and utility. I've taken every skill line and said, what is its primary focus? And I do understand that some skill lines have dual aspects to this, so I've kind of put them in the middle. Looking at, say, Assassination. Assassination, as we said, has Killer's Blade, Concealed Weapon, Merciless Resolve. Everything's about killing people. That is its main job. If you focus on Green Balance, which is in the healing and utility, this is focused on keeping you alive. So this has, your mushrooms, it's got your living trellis, it's got your bud and seed, it's got healing thicket. You got loads of good skills to heal yourself or allies and stay alive. It's a healing skill line. So with that in mind, that is its main job. Same for defense. Bone Tyrant is all about just staying alive. It's got defensive buffs. What you'll notice is there's some skill lines that kind of fall between a few of these. So for example, Restoring Light is kind of a defense skill line and a healing skill line. That's why it's in the middle. It is closer to the heal side because there's more healing than defensive, but there are some defensive parts to this. Whereas the Shadow has some defense parts with it, mainly more than healing, because it's primarily defense, and obviously it's worth stressing there's utility with this, so like movement skills, that kind of stuff. So that's why like Cloak's there for A. So that's kind of how this works. I'm going to hop on over now to the USP build editor, which is a fantastic resource. I use this all of the time. It's a really good way to save money, so I would recommend that you jump into like there if you can. But over on the build editor, this is where we are. There's a link on the website up here, so you can see it here, and this lets you basically plan and make builds. On the right side, which I have cut from the screen, you do get a kind of a stat calculation, and it tells you what would your health be, your magic, all that good stuff. And in my opinion, having used this for years, it is scarily accurate, like almost 100% accurate. It is really accurate. So if you want to save some gold, use this resource. There is a guide already on the channel a couple years ago, but it's still valid and this is still fantastic. With this though, we're going to go through and talk about how to make a build and what we're going to do first. So before I touch upon which skill lines do we use, the first thing you want to focus on is actually making a build that works. Don't worry about the sets, don't worry about the items, you know, this is just a generic loadout here. We're going to focus on the skills. The first thing you want to do is cover all of these bases down here. In order for your build to be viable, you have to have these bases covered or it will not work. I've chosen the Warden as the base class in this one, and you can change this in the general and here. And you'll see this overlay will like stick around as I tab around. It's just, you know, editing, save some time, but we're trying to fill these gaps as quick as we can. So as a Warden, it's a class people know well. We're going to go for Stamina Warden. Typically you use Dizzying Swing, or you might use Cliff Raider and use Cut and Dive. You then need what we call a burst skill. The burst skill is something that hits really hard. It is designed to basically kill people quickly. Think of Haunting Curse, think of Merciless Resolve, Power of the Light, Deep Fissure, Blast Bones. Every class has one. Even the DK with their whip, you stack the whip, it hits like a truck. So you do have a burst skill. We're going to go with Deep Fissure. This is a standard. You then want to go with what we call an execute or dot. So I do appreciate that some classes have executes in their kit and some do not. The Warden does not have one. But we do have access to weapon skills, which are fantastic. So for this reason, we're going to go and look at maybe adding Executioner. This will give us our execute. It's really good. It's really effective. But you might be going, Dan, I'm a Magicka build. How do I do that? And that's what you can do here. If we imagine, for example, that we're a Magicka build, say we're using an Ice Staff, Destructive Reach. Ice Reach works really well with the Warden passives. You know, you've got these extra Piercing Cold, so fantastic. We do have an issue though where we don't have an execute. There's nothing that we can add in our class skill line. And a Destruction Staff, it has Pulsar, which is awful. You have to use a Fire Staff. Awful. Just don't use it. So we need some way to get more damage into the build. And one of the ways you can do this is by going with a dot. So Fetter Infection will give us an extra damage over time, maybe double dot poisons as well as this, to keep that pressure up to help keep them low so we can kill them. So that's what you do on a magic build. This is basically your kill skill or your extra damage. We're going to continue with the Stamina Warden as we were talking about earlier, just to make it simpler to understand. You then have what we call as a stun or a flex spot. Some classes have stuns built in their kit, some do not. As a Warden, we don't have one in our kit that's actually reliable. Yes, we can kind of utilize the frozen retreats. It's clunky as, yes, we know. We could use Blast, maybe after Blast. It's got a bit of a stun there. It's clunky too. So there's no good stun on this kind of class. But thankfully, Dizzying Swing sets people off balance. We can medium attack and stun them. So that actually fixes this issue. So we have a flex spot now. And a really good thing to do with a flex spot is to put a passive damage boost. So I would always recommend going to either Mage's Guild or Fighter's Guild and go for Camo Hunter, which give you Major Savagery and Minor Berserk, some more crit chance. If you're using stamina skills, then obviously focus on this because you've got some nice passives down here for stamina stuff. If you're using Magicka skills and you're stacking high Magicka, go for Inner Light. But you get the idea. We could go Camo Hunter, 3 damage. We then need what is a mobility skill. This is your skill that's designed to keep you alive, helping move around. So if you get stuck, you're not going to die. For the Warden, it's going to be Bird of Prey. This is like really good. It's Major Expedition, it's Snare Immunity, it gets you out of trouble. Every class has one of these or access to something like this. In the guild skill lines under Sigic Order, this will be Race Against Time. For most people, it's going to be Race Against Time or your class 1. Typically Race Against Time in most cases. We then have a damage ult. Now this is your ult that you're trying to do to just kill people quickly. We could use, Berserker's Rage and go with like Onslaught, 100% pen, hits like a truck. It's pretty okay. Most people, in all honesty, will use the Fighter's Guild and Dawnbreaker of Smiting. This hits very, very hard. It stuns the people. It's also a stun. So if you don't have that stun, you've got a stun here. Really good way to fix it. But that's our stun here. It's also a big, big hit. And you get some nice passives down here, especially against like vampires. Like, this is huge skill tracker. We're going to go on to the back bar. And what you can see already is that our front bar is all damage. Everything we're trying to do on the front bar is to kill people. This is a very common way to build a PvP build. On the back bar, this is your defense bar. It's to keep you alive, and that's its job. So we're going to go for Ice Fortress as our armor buff. Every class has an armor buff. We're then going to go for a Burst Still. Now on a Warden, it's going to be a Polar Wind. You don't really have a good Burst Still. None of these Burst Stills in Green Balance are that good for like really big hills to keep you alive. You could, if you do want to consider a Restoration stuff, use Blessing of Restoration. It does hit hard. If you go with lots of damage, this will go to like 10, 11,000, so it's pretty decent. But that is an option too. The Warden is going to stack the health to go for Polar Wind. That's just a better choice in all honesty. You then have what we need to heal over time. So something that keeps you just passively healing is really useful. Most people have Resolve and Vigor. This is like the best one to use. There's extra armor, it's also healing, it's cheap, it's great. If you don't want to use this, you can use one from your class. There's an options there. You then need a damage buff, someone to give you your major brutality, your major sorcery. For the Warden, it's going to be Ball Netch. Other classes, this might look like Crit Surge. It might look like Rally, and if you don't have one, some people might have to use Rally because you don't have it in your class. It might even look like your guild skills and go to Mage's Guild and go for Degeneration. So you can get this buff quite easily. If you don't have this at all, you can use Subscribing as well if you have that system. And then the final option is Flex. This is basically where you can add something to your build to make it more useful for you. In all honesty, it's going to be an extra heal. So this for us is going to be Living Trellis. This is fantastic. Living Trellis gives us loads of healing. You'll probably notice though that if I think of my Camo Hunter from the guild skills, Camo Hunter gives us our Minor Berserk, but I have that already for my Bird of Prey. And I can get the Savagery and Prophecy from Lotus Blossom, which is even more healing. So you can play around with it to try and get some more use for your build. And in this flex spot, I can mix them around, move them back and forward if I wish. You could be really cheeky, and this was always a good tip, is in the Alliance War, under the support, go for Flare. Any Flare will pick, but Flare has a unique part that gives you major protection. It's 10% damage reduction whilst you're on that bar. You never need to cast it, but it's just there. It's 3 damage, it's great. You just stay alive longer. And not only that, you do get the Magic Aid passive, so that when we switch to the back bar, you get the recovery, so it's free sustain, which means all your magic skills you can sustain them easier. So this is just a really good tip if you have a spare slot, basically. I'm personally, in all honesty, for a Warden, I would keep the extra heal. I think is more useful, but that's up to you. I know Warden's going to be in melee, or I need extra heals within melee, so that's why. The final thing you then have is the defensive ult. This is your basically I don't want to die button. It could be a really big heal. Healing Thicket is fantastic for this. It might be on some classes your Restoration Life Giver. It costs all of the heal skills. This is like a really good I don't want to die. You obviously have to use a Restoration Staff, so there's that kind of trade-off. It could be Sword and Shield, which is fantastic. Spell Wall, it's auto block, you reflect projectiles. It basically means you don't die. You put this up, people could do very little damage to you. They do half damage. They can't hit you range attacks, and you can heal through all the damage. It's fantastic. So it's very, 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 very good. You could go with a class skill such as like Northern Storm. It's got a bit of damage, major protections, you and allies. So there's a few ways around this. But what you can see here is we have a build that is viable, and that's the key here. This is viable. This will work in PvP. It's probably more of a meta build in all honesty. And if you're going, well, what about the sets? What do I use? I've also taken the liberty of just putting a generic setup. If you're ever unsure what to run, just copy this. This will work for you. It hits very, very hard. You just change your weapon to be whatever you want. So staff if you want a staff. So lightning staff if you're magic. Maul if you're melee. And then sword and shield or ice staff on the back bar. But this is a generic one. You can pause it here if you wish. This will work on any build. It's a good setup. And you can change the food to be regen. But what we're going to now do is look at how can we add subclassing to make this better. What would it do? What would it bring to the build? So we're going to go back to where we were here. And thinking about where we were, we had all of our core stuff covered. We had burst, we had spammable, we had stun. But what I do notice is that my heal is tied to really high max health, and that's really awkward to use. And if you look at the heal skill on Green Balance, it's in the B tier on the bottom right. Is there a heal that's higher tier-wise that's better? Well, there's not one that's higher, but Restoring Light is in the kind of heal and defense skill, and that's probably better to use than Winter's Embrace, because that's also in the same spot. Winter's Embrace is a defensive heal skill line, but actually Restoring Light is a better version of this. So what this means is we're going to go onto the editor, and then we're going to swap our Winter's Embrace and go for Restoring Light. This is a way better skill line. And when you purchase this, you'll notice that some of these things will disappear quite quickly, and we don't have access to these two skills. We've lost our armor buff, we lost our birth heal. We can use Restore and Focus and get some stamina back. This is great on a Stamden. We cast our armor buff and we get free sustain. It's stupidly good. It also heals us. Like, why would you not want this? Let's chuck this here. We then have a burst heal missing. Well, we could go with Honor the Dead. This will fix that. It's a really good burst heal. It scales with damage, better passives. This already is an improvement of what we had. We have better healing now. We have more sustain. So this is a win-win-win all around. But I think we could do better with this build. So I'm going to refer back to the chart once more and go, can I get any more damage in? Because most classes, in all honesty, are stacking 2 damage skill lines and a heal skill line. And so with that in mind, are there any good damage skill lines we can use? And what you will see is we have like the Assassination and the Animal Companions. They are like the S tier of skill lines. They are very, very, very good. So I'm going to be going, well, if I want more damage, I could use Adric Spear, jabs. I could use Gravelord, Blast Bones. Assassination, Merciless Resolve. I'm going to go with Assassination. I think that's a better skill line. So I'm going to hop on over, have a look at what would Assassination look like. What would I need to drop? Well, I've got healing already covered, and I've got my heal over time. My flex spots are just bonus heals. This isn't doing much green balance. And I could probably change this with just more potion usage, or maybe just use these heals a bit more. So I'm going to change this because my armor heals me. I can sit inside the armor buff. So Restoring Focus will give me some healing. I'm going to change my green balance to Assassination. This will give me way more damage than before. So what we're now going to do is go, well, what would this add to our build? So we're going to lose these 2 here, but we are going to now gain some new skills. So one of the first things you can see instantly is we got this stun or flex spot. I'm going to have Merciless Resolve. This hits like a truck. It's stupidly good. It hits very hard. And we also get Killer's Blade, which is a better version of Executioner. Executioner hits very hard. It's bleed damage. It's a bit cheap. Killer's Blade, however, it's a little bit more expensive, but it heals us. So why would I not use this as free healing? So now I've got a better Execute. I've got free healing. The extra sustain that it might need is covered by the Restoring Focus. And I still have that flex spot for whatever I need. I could run Reaper's March and get rid of those pesky Nightblades. They're really annoying. Or I could go for maybe Ambush, and I could gap close, and this will help me get into the fight. So I could buff up, ambush in, ready to fight. So there's lots of ways around this. And that's the power of this method. It gives you lots of choices to make builds that work, that are viable, and lets you tweak them to get even more power out of them. I think this kind of gives you a good idea of what you can do for the first build. I'm going to make another one, maybe a third one, just to give you some quick ideas of how to do for more niche stuff, because I appreciate you might not be on a Stamdon, and that might be a problem. So let's get rid of all of this. Let's reset all of these, okay? And we're going to change our class, and we're going to go to General, and we're going to be a Necromancer. And a Necromancer, if anybody's played PvP, they are notoriously hard to build. They are very, very awkward. We're going to go through the same method this time. Keep all the base class skill lines exactly the same. We then fill in the gaps using weapon skills, guild skills, scribing if you have it. And then we go from there. So the first thing I'd do is we'll go, well, spammable. Do I have a spammable? As a magic and necromancer, what do I have access to? I've got Ricochet Skull or Venom Skull. They're terrible. It's terrible. I've got Crushing Shock's pretty good. Actually, it's pretty decent. I also have, maybe if I go for the word, be a vampire. Arterial Burst, melee, but vampire. That's a good option. Or go for the guild, I could go for Sigic Order, Elemental Weapon. Most people are going to use Crushing Shock and a Destruction Staff. My burst skill, as a Necromancer, is going to be Blighted Blast Bones. This hits very hard. It does everything we need. I now need an Execute or a Dot. You'll see quite quickly that this class lacks this. So I'm going to fix this by just running an extra Dot or a debuff. And a really good option for this is Elemental Susceptibility. It's Major Breach and it's the 3 status effects for more damage. So this is free damage, it's dirt cheap, costs nothing to use, it's debuffs them. This is a really good way to get free damage into a build. I then need a stun or a flex. And again, you'll notice the Necromancer has no good stun. All the stuns are clunky to use and you have no options. So in this situation, you're better just running an extra damage over time or using an extra heal. I might use Mortal Coil as a heal, it's a sustain, but this is an option here. We're now going to go over to mobility. Mobility is all about how do we get around, and Necromancer doesn't have one, so we're going to have to use the Race Against Time. You might notice that this stun and flex, it's not really doing any damage here, so I might move this to the back bar flex already, and I'm going to put in the Mage Guild Inner Light. It's crit chance, and it's max magic and more damage, so this is just a passive damage buff. And then for the ultimate, I have a choice of Colossus. That could hit quite hard. I could go with maybe Meteor. So go for Guild, go for Mage Guild, Meteor. That would hit hard. I could go for maybe Dawnbreaker. It's cheap. It's also a stun. That would fix the lack of a stun in my build. So this might be a good way to get the stun in, which I do often on magic builds. I use Dawnbreaker because I can't stun normally, and this really helps get around that. If you have Scribe and you can obviously Scribe the stun with Dazing Soul, that is an option. We then go to the back bar, and the back bar is way simpler to do in all honesty. Every class has an armor buff, so in this case it's going to be Summoner's Armor. Our burst heal is going to be in Living Death, Resistant Flesh. This is good. We're then going to go a heal over time. You could use Mender, this is fantastic, so using Spirit Guardian is really, really good. It's also damage reduction, so really, really nice there. So this could go here. Or we could go with the Trusted Vigor, Vigor's very good too, so both are good options. And the damage buff, we need something that gives us our major sorcery, our major brutality. For the Necromancer, it's going to be the Skeletal Arcanist or Skeletal Archer. Or you could go down, if you run a two-hander on the back bar, use Rally, that's another option. Or you go to the guild and get Degeneration, that's another option. And then for the defensive ult, you can use one that will keep you alive. I'm going to keep with the skeleton just for the theme of a Necromancer. And defensively, I'm probably going to go with Ravenous Goliath. It's really good to get you out of trouble. But then thinking about that, it's really expensive, so maybe I want to use Sword and Shield. That's probably more practical. It's better in all honesty. Maybe I could use Life Giver. I don't have many heals. This could help. And I think this is a viable Necromancer. It will do what you need for PvP. You can kill people. Will it be the best build? No, but it will be completely viable. It will hit hard, it will have good sustain, it would have everything you need. This setup here would work, it'll make it viable, so just copy that. But we want to go, can we add anything better with subclassing? And so I'm looking at my blue skill lines, my Necromancer. I've got Gravelord, which is A damage. I've got Bone Tyrant, which is a C defense, that's really low. I've got B for Living Death, and that's kind of your healing utility. So the healing could be stronger. I could go for Restoring Focus, it's also healing up there. And that's also got defense, which will cover my Bone Tyrant. So I'm going to do this now, because actually I've found something already stronger than what I had. So I'm going to go on over to my Necromancer, change my Living Death, which is my heals, and I'm going to swap this for the Restoring Light. What will then happen is you'll get rid of your Necromancer ones. So let me just get rid of these quickly. So Summoner's Armor will disappear. The editor does normally remove it, by the way, so just do factor that in. So it will get rid of the coil and stuff. But it can be a bit clunky. So that's all reset now. I'm going to put this back on. I'm going to change it over to Restoring Light. So this is where we were with our skills already. What you will see is we have an armor buff still, but we missed a burst heal. Well, we can get Breath of Life. We saw that already. And let's go Honor the Dead. That's better. We also have an armor buff in this, which we're going to go with Channeled Focus, armor buff. And then we're going to go, we've got a flex spot. My flex spot could be Repentance. I love the idea of taking my corpses and getting something out of them, getting some free health, some free stamina. It's great. And it also gives our regen buff. So this is really, really good. That can go here. What I might then notice is if I look at Gravelord, I'm using these, but am I using Bone Tyrant? Well, the answer is no. I might want to keep the passives, but I could probably get some more damage in this build, and I do lack damage. You know, Necromancer is always a bit notorious for that. So I'm going to look and go, if there's any good damage lines we could add to our build. We've got an A damage line already, so we could either add, say, Spear, Assassination, we could maybe add Animal Companions, Storm Calling. I'm going to go with Assassination. It's like too good not to use. It's going to fix a lot of our issues. So let's go with our Bone Tyrant. We'll get rid of that, so we'll reset that line. And we'll change this to the Assassination from the Nightblade. Now, this will give us access to a melee spam mob that's off balance. That gives us access to a stun. We might not want to be a melee, so we can keep the range if we do want that. That's an option for sure. But what it does give us is a better burst skill. So we can drop our Inner Light. We don't need that anymore. And put Merciless Resolve here. Now we've got access to a burst skill that will hit really hard with Blast Bones, with Crushing Shot, and they're all ranged. This will work really well. Dawnbreaker, it's not a range ult. I could probably change this to my Mage Guild. And now I've got a burst combo of spamming Crushing Shock, using Blast Bones, into Spec Bow, into Meteor. I might decide that actually I don't have the stun. I could drop Susceptibility. I could put in a Scribe skill. So if we imagine this soul magic here was our Willed Soul, Dazing Soul, so Daze, so you'd have Stun, Lingering Torment, and you could put on like Breach or Defile. I'll go with Breach. this will then become your stun, which means we can now play this at range. We've got a range skill that has a stun, so everything we need, so we'll swap these around. And this, like, Murder Resolve is basically my execute. If they're, I could just shoot this 2 times in a row, they're going to die. It's very, very hard. This would work. This is a very, very, very viable skill. And that's kind of what this method does. It gives you ways to build using the chart that I showed you at the start throughout the video. And then with this in mind, you can then go, how would this look? I'd always recommend check the passives. Sometimes the passives have what you need, so that's really worth noting. And it's also worth stressing that you can't use 2 skill lines from the same class unless that's your base class. So that is just worth factoring in. But this gives you an idea of how to build a character to make it viable in PvP for everything you need. I will just touch very quickly before I wrap the video up on just a few niche skill lines that are really worth looking at, because they're a little bit awkward, especially with how they work. So we're going to focus on Shadow, which is really interesting. So the Shadow skill line is what is a defense and healing skill line. And it's actually like defense and utility. So if we change the assassination to Shadow, what you will see very quickly is that it doesn't have an armor buff. So you might be going, well, Dan, but you said it's a defense skill. Where's that? Like, what's going on? Well, if you look at the passives, refreshing shadows, you get sustained, but you get shadow barrier, which is your armor buff. So I will get this if I have one of these skills slotted. So I could put on maybe Phantasmal Escape. It's going to give me the armor buff when I use this. So there are a few skill lines where you do need to check the passives. The chart, in all honesty, is mostly accurate. It covers everything you need. But if you go, I can't see the damage buff or the sustain buff, just check the passives. They're probably there somewhere. You might also, as just a little pro tip, go, I don't want to waste, you know, a skill line on defense. Like, how to do that? You could just go to your items and change Balorg and run Mighty Tudun. Mighty Tudun is fantastic. It gives you major resolve at all times. This is your armor buff, which means if you did this, you can then cover your armor buff here and just drop that because you've got that already covered and you've got a free slot. Very, very, very good for sorcerers. And this is what I'm doing with my builds. I'm just tweaking, testing around to see what would work. And then for the sets, I pick the sets and we're good to go. I will put this back to what we had at the end just so people can see for transparency. This was what we felt was like the best setup for this. And this would make a Necromancer work now. It's a ranged macro that's actually going to kill stuff and does everything we need. So I do think that kind of covers it all. There's a lot I've gone through. I appreciate there's a lot of detail. So any questions, as always, you know, let me know below. And I just want to take this opportunity to say a massive thanks for anybody that has watched this long. It really, really helps. And questions and stuff down below. I'm going to say a massive thanks to all the people who support on Patreon and YouTube members. If you want to support myself to get exclusive content, early access, all that good stuff, there's details below. But I'll catch you next video or stream. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. And bye.